Hey guys, this is Nicole from Holistic Vitality. I kind of wanted to do a recap of some of the crazy, wild, spiritual, mind-blowing experiences that have kind of been occurring in my experience in the last week or so. But some of the themes I'll be talking about might overlap with some other experiences that predate this particular week. But some of these themes could revolve around discussing plant medicines and a particular past life that has showed up, and how that kind of has evolved in its influence in my life, and as well as a pretty big bombshell that my deceased grandmother, who has come through in certain channeled exchanges, has landed in my lap. And so I find it all to be very just mind-blowing. And I mean, although I can't say I'm completely shocked or surprised, because these seem to be kind of like more of a normal type of occurrence in my experience these days, and especially once I've really taken the dive on my spiritual journey. And so it's just comes up from all angles, and it's pretty wild. I don't even know how to describe it, but I guess to do a little bit of a backdrop to set the stage for what we'll be talking about as far as what's happened this week, is over the summer, one of my clients, I led her into a shamanic journey in which she started channeling the consciousness of grandmother, which is the nickname given to the plant medicine ayahuasca. And so anybody who's done the medicine gets that she has her own unique consciousness as a really intelligent, wise medicine that really helps people process their healing journey. But obviously for those that don't know, I kind of wanted to share that. So she, her energy was channeling through my client, where she gave me a lot of messages. And just so you know, I've kind of worked with this medicine, I think at this point probably about 14 times, with a particular group that I would work with. And it's been an amazing wild ride and journey, and I love that I've been able to work so hand in hand with this medicine. However, as the channeling came through, I was told that I needed to take a step back from this particular circle, which was kind of bittersweet at the same time, because, I kind of had a little bit of a community that I really love in that circle. But what she was communicating is that I need to work more directly with the indigenous, whom make their own medicine and add the sanctity to their own medicine. And she was really reemphasizing that I needed to have that experience and work more directly with the indigenous. One of the things she told me was not to chase the medicine, and that the medicine would find me. So I was like, okay, all right. So I guess I'll see what comes up, trust the guidance. She gave some other messages regarding the medicines, as well as one of the other reasons I really needed to sit with the indigenous is because I really needed to help process a deep shadow work that I wasn't getting fully in my other journeys with the medicine. And she said that this deep shadow work was so traumatic, and it stems from a past life. She said that it was so traumatic. There's an aspect of me that was essentially blocking accessing this particular memory, because it was so painful and whatnot. Okay, so I was like, all right, well, can you give me any more information? I didn't get any more information at the time, but that was kind of what she was saying I was going to need to address. Excuse me. My copper bottles. I love copper. Okay, so that was, I would say, you know, roughly like five months ago. Now, the other thing that I've been trying to understand and resolve, and I'd say has been really affecting me, is this extreme back pain that would flare up, especially while in ceremony, working with the medicine. That I would say really started about 10 ceremonies ago, where it just would send me into so much excruciating back pain that I had trouble going as deep as I would have liked to within the journey with the medicine. And so I've been trying to get to the bottom of that, you know, and I've been getting some clues along the way, because like I said, a lot of my clients do channel, meaning like they'll connect to the experience or higher consciousness, and a lot of times through that connection to spirit realm, they gift me some messages as well, and breadcrumbs, if you will, to keep me moving along on my growth and journey as well. So that's kind of fun. But that's not the only source. But anyway, some messages have been coming through along the way that's been giving me little bits of clues as to what that's about. But anyways, last week I set up a trade, or I had a trade with another shamanic practitioner. Her name's Elizabeth, and I think Iwasa is her business name. But I'll put information in as to how to contact her if you resonate with her below. So anyways, so we did an exchange of service in which yesterday she retrieved her session, and she did a session for me about a week ago, or a week and a half ago, something like that. And she facilitates differently than I do, but it was kind of cool to have kind of like the opposite way of facilitating to some extent, and to compare, and also have my way to compare and validate how she facilitates. So for me, the way I facilitate is I lead the client into, or their consciousness into, an out-of-body experience where they're essentially greeted by the spirit realm and are able to, in the higher dimensional realm. So usually we're working with higher conscious beings when they come through, like your guides or your loved ones, elders, ancestors, but anything's possible. Multidimensionally traveling, accessing past lives, accessing the consciousness of your future self, like really anything's possible. So, but when I lead clients, they're the ones that are seeing or feeling or experiencing the journey, and then channeling through, meaning they're speaking, able to still communicate through their physical self. So I know how or where they are in their journey, so I can help them navigate their experience. But I'm the one that is not seeing what they're seeing, right? Or hearing what they're hearing. So whereas Elizabeth is kind of like the opposite, where she is very gifted in the abilities to channel herself. So she's more seeing and feeling and receiving these messages. So yeah, so Elizabeth is the one, like I said, that is receiving the downloads of the channeled messages, or experiencing a lot of the things on what is going on with the client, or at least that's my perspective of my experience of it. So anyways, initially when she started working, my grandmother is who she started channeling, and this would be my mother's mother. She was saying it was the grandmother from my mother's side. And she was basically communicating that my grandmother really wanted to work with me more directly as a guide, but that she was also needing my help and wanting forgiveness from myself and my mother and my sister, because she was feeling like feeling guilty or shameful because she felt like she broke our family apart. And I was trying to like pull some things with questions and like thinking like, when would this happen of where she would feel this way? I was thinking, was it at the time of her death? I know there was some kind of conflict that took place between some other family members and my mom at the time of her death. And she's like, no, this got seeded a lot earlier. So I was like, okay. And then she said the other thing that she was feeling guilty for because of whatever she, I guess, didn't heal, or something that happened in her lifetime that wasn't addressed within her. She feels like it's been kind of passed on to me, and it had something to do with some kind of deep sadness of some sorts. And so as the channeling evolved, she was like, yes, it sounds like your grandmother has a big secret, and that's what she wants this forgiveness for. Okay, what's this big secret, Grandma? Well, she was like, whoa. She's like, seems like there's something have to do with an affair. And I'm thinking like, well, I know my grandfather, I believe, had an affair and left my grandmother when she was a lot older for another woman, right? And so she's like, no. She's like, you need to talk to your grandmother. She kind of left me with that. And so, I'm like, okay. And I'm like, some of the ways that I would maybe communicate with my grandmother is through a modality nicknamed the glass, which is a portal to communicate with the spirit realm. But I didn't want it to come through that. Like, I wanted like direct answers. And then I was thinking, well, my mom's kind of resistant to being led into journey, and my sister's a little blocked from her perspective in connecting. And like they say, you can't really heal your inner circle is kind of the going saying too. So anyways, so I was trying to like ponder, I'm like, okay, like how am I gonna like get the rest of this story? Okay. So anyways, that was the beginning. And the next thing, what she tried to like regress me so I could try to figure out I wanted to figure out what the past life problem was. And as she was trying to regress me, I feel like she has a quicker drop in. And I think now that I think in hindsight after facilitating with her, I think it's just, she drops in pretty quickly. But myself, I'm so controlled that it takes much more of a lead up for me to drop into a journey or a regression. So I only got a little bit as far as my own experience of and what I was seeing, and the closest I got was maybe seeing some flames, like there was a fire and some smoke. But other than that, I felt like I was kind of blocked in seeing it. And so that's when she was like, okay, well, let me tell you what I'm picking up. She's like, I see you have this dagger in your back. And she's like, it's kind of bejeweled in the handle. And she's like, what I am getting is that in this lifetime where this happened, your father, it was like in an Arabian type culture, where the cultural belief system is that you like respect your father and you're loyal no matter what, which was apparently quite the conundrum for me in this lifetime, because my father apparently was a very evil person and would burn down villages, and I had to be kind of a part of it and witness it. And it was really hard on me because it put me into this moral crisis of, this is terrible, this is bad, I don't want to be a part of this, but yet being stuck to this cultural belief system that you honor and respect, the father, the patriarch, no matter what. So she said, like, it put me into the position of wanting to maybe plot his death, like to kill him, to try to stop him, I guess. And anyways, he kind of either intuited it somehow, where he figured out that that was going to take place, and or figured it out. Somehow he figured it out that that was the case, and that was the ultimate disloyalty to him. And so he knew that the only way what he needed to do was to take me out. And so he ended up killing me instead first. Okay, so, you know, I have to do some forgiveness work and send, you know, this father figure on his way, is what I'm thinking, you know. But at the same time, in the moment, you know, I'm kind of like, even though I do this work and it's so profound, there is kind of like this intellectual skeptic in me as well that likes to objectively question everything and verify it through multiple sources before I can obviously say, okay, I can accept this as truth. So I kind of took it all in objectively, and I was like, all right, we'll see, like we'll see what comes up, you know. So later that week, I was actually working with another client who is the translator for the Kuntanawa tribe out in Acre, Brazil, and in which we were scheduled to sit in ceremony with them over the weekend. So that would have been last weekend. But anyways, I worked with her prior to that. And as she comes in, she's talking about like, how crazy is this? She's like, the day before, she's like, I had this message pop in my head from my Lebanese grandmother who said she's finally ready to talk and she has some stuff to reveal to me or talk to me about. So I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy, because my grandmother just came through yesterday too with this so-called big secret she's been to like drop, you know? And so that's when I had this inkling. I was like, oh, I wonder, since this is kind of the theme showing up for her, I was like, I wonder if my grandmother is going to come through in her journey or be able to get some of these answers, you know? I was like, okay. So anyways, we then lead her into journey, and she was able to connect to both of her grandmothers. So it was quite the journey with grandmother energy, definitely coming through, and seeming like some of them wanted to get things off their chest, and make her aware as to some of the things she was struggling with in her family dynamic, and some things that have kind of, themes that have kind of pulled forward in her life, apparently stems from what her grandmother felt guilty for passing on as well. So that seemed to be kind of an interesting theme that was kind of repeating there for the both of us. And she even channeled the jungle energy, basically telling her that, you know, part of her healing, because she was dealing with physical illness, cancer, breast cancer, I guess. And anyways, it was saying that the key to her healing is in the jungle, and that she needs to go sit in the jungle, and that the jungle was calling her, and it was calling her to a specific, I guess, tree that she's never seen before. And she said in turn, not only will you heal me, but you would be able to, or not only will the jungle be able, the energy of that would be able to heal her, but in turn, with her becoming more present in presence with her, she would also simultaneously be gifting healing to Mother Gaia as well, right? Or Pachamama. And so anyways, there was lots more that came through, but it was just beautiful. Now the end of her journey, I was like, okay, I was like, I've never done this before. I was like, because when I connect clients, it's normally I'm connecting them to, you know, their guides or angels or loved ones or whatever. It's their beings, you know, they're light beings, their guides. But I was like, I've never done this before, but would you feel comfortable if we try to call in my grandmother so I could try to get some answers? So she's like, oh, I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean, we could try. So we did, and sure enough, she was able to connect to my grandmother. And my grandmother's like, she's like, okay, well, you better be the one asking the questions, kind of thing. Kind of was like being a little sassy. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, let's start with the journey I had yesterday. Were you present there? And she's like, yes. And I was just like, okay, well, can you give me more clarity on, you know, what you were trying to tell me? What's this big secret? And of course, my client doesn't know anything that was discussed, you know, like what Elizabeth had shared in my journey with her. You know, she just knew my grandmother came through. That was it. So my grandmother's like, yes, I did have an affair. And she's like, and the big whopper of a secret is that I don't believe your mom is the biological daughter of who she was raised to believe her father was, or my grandfather, you know. So I was like, whoa, what? I need more answers here. Explain, you know, like, this is okay. So anyways, she was feeling very shameful, very, very shameful. And she was like, she obviously took this big secret to the grave. She said she didn't tell anybody because she was so ashamed of herself. And basically she said in those days, she was like, the thing to do is you get married, you know. And when she met who I thought was my grandfather, right? She thought he was a good guy and he was decent and, you know, wasn't bad guy is what she said, and just thought that that was the best she was gonna do. And so she got married. So even though she was saying, like, you know, that's the thing you do back then is to get married, she married my grandfather not because she was in love with him, but out of context. That's just, you know, what you do in those days. And so she said she met this other person that she did fall in love with after she married my I don't even know, my non-biological grandfather. How about that? So she met this other guy afterwards and like fell for him, but for whatever reason, they couldn't be together. And that's why she feels in the timing of everything that her pregnancy with my mother is more in alignment with being this other guy's child than who we thought, I guess, or who she thought her father was, that she obviously continued the marriage, leading my mom to believe that he was her biological father, but she carried this lie, or this shame of that, obviously, like I mentioned, to the grave. And so she gave a little bit more information and more clarity, and even confirmed the past life experience that Elizabeth mentioned. She said, yes, that is true. That is what happened. And you do need some more work in obviously healing this. So anyways, that was like a big whopper of a bombshell that, you know, now she wanted me to pass on the message to my mother regarding this big secret, although she did admit that she was very afraid of my mother's reaction, you know, but she was requesting understanding and forgiveness. And of course I was like, well, yeah, I forgive you. I mean, I don't know what you were going through in those times. And, you know, like, we've all, you know, done things or regretted things and feel shameful for things at times in our life, you know, and I'm not one to judge, you know, but I was like, but my mother, on the other hand, I was like, this one's going to be a toughie, I think. So anyways, I decided to tell my mom. And at first I thought, took it rather well, because she's like more in reaction of like, well, I'll be damned. Like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, really? Okay. Now she's like, kind of like, I guess I have to rethink some things and, you know, what have you. So I was like, oh, okay, that went rather well. But it was the next day, and then she went through this denial phase where she's like, I don't resonate with that. I don't believe it. It just does not resonate with me. Like, I don't think that's true. Like, no, kind of attitude. And I was like, hey, don't shoot the messenger. We also, however, per my client's request, we did record her session, but we recorded it on her phone, so she could like reflect back on what her journey was. So I was like requesting from her, I'm like, can you please find a way to send this to me so I can just forward that to my mom and let her hear the exchange and what we learned, and she can figure it out for herself, and go from there. And so in that time of her being able to figure that out, I was also trying to telepathically communicate with my grandmother. I'm like, okay, I passed on the message, I did my job, but you need to find a more direct way to get through to my mom, and so that she believes you, if it's important for that to be the case, for her to believe what you're telling us, So I was like, you need to find a way to get through to her. You're outside of me, because I think coming through me, she was, it was hard for her to believe it, and rightfully so. Like, just like how I was explaining with my experience with Elizabeth, there's that sort of level of questioning when you're not necessarily directly coming into all of those answers. But then again, I feel like myself, even if I were the one to come into some of those things, I would question my own intuition. I would question and doubt it, that's just my natural inclination as well. So I get it. So anyways, she sends me the recording. I send it to my mom, and the next day we talk, and she's just like, well, I definitely think your grandmother is definitely pushing my buttons. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, I went to bed like angry and was basically trying to have this telepathic conversation with her. It's like, if this is true, I need to know a name. I need the name of this other guy, because like, this is ridiculous. You know what I mean? And like, she's like, here's a piece of paper and a pen. I'm putting it next to my bed, and there better be a name on here when I wake up, kind of thing, if you want me to believe any of this. So anyways, she says that she then wakes up out of a dead sleep with this name in her head of her remembering from when she was a little girl. Now my mom's 60 something years old, so like so my grandmother's sister, she remembered her like teasing my grandmother about this particular boyfriend that, she was, all in love with or whatever, and she remembers seeing some photos of him holding her, and he was this, I think he was some kind of like Olympic cyclist or something. So he traveled, cycling. But she was obviously then questioning the timelines of when this all could have happened, and all this other stuff. But so anyways, that was pretty profound of how this has all come together. After my client session, that weekend is, like I said, we sat with the Kuntanawa tribe for ceremony with grandmother. And it was quite a lovely experience getting to see the difference of what I was used to in ceremony and how I was used to experiencing the medicine and how the facilitation is very different. But I definitely felt like the first 2 doses, it was hard for me to connect like I'm used to with the medicine. I was kind of blocked, and it wasn't until the 3rd dose that I feel like I was able to get a breakthrough. And I think part of that breakthrough is I had 2 of the people that were there. One of them I requested to visualize themselves kind of stitching my back up, like, because it was in where the pain is and where the dagger was found is in like the back of my heart chakra, so like a blind spot where you can't really reach, right? And so I asked this particular person if he could like visualize like stitching this gaping wound as if a dagger was pulled out, and that started to feel a little bit better, or it helped. And then another friend who was there with me, I asked if she could do some laying of hands healing for me, just to send some energy there, because I was flaring up and I was in so much pain. But by her having that presence of her energy, it really helped me to go deeper in connecting to that wound through feeling. So it wasn't like I was re-experiencing like a vision of going back to that lifetime. What I was feeling was that the imprint of the emotional impact and effects that experience had over me, because I think how I was processing it before is very intellectual, in the sense of, all right, I need to figure out this father figure. Okay, see you later. I'm good. Obviously, I don't even remember it anyway. So, water under the bridge. I'm good. You know what I mean? Can my back get better now? We're good. Let's squash this, this karma. Like, I don't need it. I want my back to be better. So that was kind of how I think I was like, processing this information up until the medicine ceremony. And I really went into that feeling of just crying and just that ultimate betrayal of how could your father be capable of murdering you? Like the whammy of that impact and all the angles of that type of karma. Like it was like I was sad for me, and I was sad for him, because I'm like, God, this must have followed him through all these lifetimes too. If it's followed me, like this guy obviously does not have a clear conscience either, and I'm like just distraught and like just sobbing and like how could you do that to your child? And I'm thinking of myself as a parent. Could you ever be capable of like killing your child? And I mean, I guess it happens in the world, so it's not unlikely scenario, but the feeling of the ramifications of all those angles, and then thinking about like how that must have impacted the mother, or his partner, like how that must have destroyed her, because him killing her child, and it was just this wozer, so I definitely feel like I made a big breakthrough. And also what I forgot to mention is my grandmother, who came through in that channeling, also said that that the back pain would begin to dissipate, but there is still some layers of healing that needs to take place, and which I kind of sense even with the medicine journey. There's still some processing and integration and healing that still needs to be processed and released before I think like I will heal from that energy karmic wound that stems from this particular lifetime that was apparently very traumatic. And like I said, the idea of the trauma didn't really faze me. I'm like, oh, okay, well, yeah, like I said, I don't remember it. It's cool. We're done now, let's move on, let's clean this karma up. But obviously what I was failing to do was really understand the gravity and implications of that trauma and why it has followed me through lifetimes. So yeah. So on top of that, like there's definitely been some themes with in other clients' channelings that seems to be pretty consistent, is that I myself am also being called to the jungle, and somehow I'm meant to be doing more work with the indigenous. And in this time frame, also another lady reached out to me feeling compelled to connect with me, in that she just helped build a school in Ecuador for the Ashwar tribe, the indigenous out there. And not sure how that collaboration of both of us would really take place. We're still kind of unfolding that, but where she felt like maybe there's a way I could help in helping lead groups to sit with this like amazing tribe, and so that they can sit with this sacred medicine of their people. And what I feel that is consistent in not only what's come through in the channelings, but also what seems to be the mission of the indigenous, is that they are trying to help wake people up, especially the white people of the West, you know, because there's a lot of destruction that's happening to, you know, their rainforest, and what they are seeing, the ramifications that's going to have on a global scale. Not only how that is a direct threat to their survival as well, and, you know, thinking of all the ancient wisdom that these people have held on to, you know, bastardized by the white people, or the Western world, if you would, you know, like where they've been able to, you know, for so long keep the authenticity of their culture intact. However, they are being called to, I guess, really make a reach out to us, to wake us up, because this medicine, working with ayahuasca, is very much a consciousness awakening for people, besides healing and all of that, where they feel that is so necessary at this time for people to be able to tap back into compassion and empathy, to understand the gravity of our influence on this planet, and how there is changes that we can be a part of making those changes take place. It seems to be kind of what the message is coming from. And from that other angle, it also seems like, you know, Mother Earth, Gaia, Pachamama, like she is doing this because she is also consciousness, you know, and she is also suffering for what is happening on her planet, and the destruction that is taking place to her and her kingdom and her animal kingdom and her plant kingdom, and, you know, her people. You know, we are also her people, but, you know, we are also in the process of destroying her at the same time. And she's doing this like desperate call out to us, to reach our soul on a soul level, for us to really empathize, is what seems to be coming through, so that hopefully we can do something about this to change in a positive direction. And so yeah, so lots and lots of information that has kind of been coming through, and I really felt compelled to share all of this, because I feel like I'm always processing so much that is growing me and evolving me at such a rapid rate, and I'm so terrible at journaling and documenting all these things. So these videos at least helps me to kind of speak about it and connect some dots as I've filed away some of these very profound experiences. And there's so many more I want to talk about, because it's quite incredible what is possible and what people are connecting to, and what I'm witnessing and what I am personally experiencing as well. And it's just quite profound and magical, either which way you look at it. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed my story. If you know, are curious to learn more about any of the things I've discussed here, feel free to reach out to me. If you're curious about working with myself, you can check out my website, www.holistic.vitality.com. I'll kind of keep that in the video so you can see that. And if you were curious about Elizabeth with Iwasa, she did communicate, though, that she will be not taking any clients until April, because I guess she is being called to write this incredible book. And like I said, I did lead her into channeling as well, or into a journey which she was channeling, where her guides were speaking through her. So that was pretty wild and cool what I learned through her. Probably have to do a separate video on that, but apparently right now her calling is to really get a big message out to people, especially healers, other healers, on how to ground their work, so it's more effective, and ground it with working with the elements. So anyways, so she's come into some wisdom, not only within her training, but also what she's been guided to share. So I'm really excited to see how that unfolds and read her book when it's done. And so if you're curious about her, you might have to wait, I'm guessing, until April. She seems to be pretty firm on, and plus her guides were actually pretty firm on that. She needs to take a step back and focus on this, because this is a bigger mission for her than working one-on-ones at this moment. So, but I would say, like, based on what was confirmed in, you know, my client's journey, like, she validated everything that Elizabeth brought to my awareness. And so that gives me even more confirmation that she's really good at what she does. And so yeah, so maybe there's an opportunity to explore work with her as well, if you feel called to it. Obviously, you'll just have to maybe wait till she opens up for that. Yeah, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or are curious about any of the things I have discussed and how things might be unfolding. I will try to keep up to date on sharing some of these cool things that are coming through and experiences. So anyways, it was a pleasure sharing my story, and I will talk to you guys soon, hopefully. Bye.